the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter. Welcome to the Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in America. I am your host, John Parker. In studio with me today is my executive producer, Jim Pounds. It is Friday, so we take a break from the news to look at culture and entertainment, ways for us to reset and have some self-care over the weekend. First, I want to remind folks about Queer Gaze, which is this Sunday. Queer Gaze, G-A-Z-E, is excited to be partnered with Imagine Willow Creek Theater to present a new queer film on the last Sunday of each month. This Sunday, August 31st, at 2 p.m., will be Torch Song Trilogy, the classic from 1988, based on the Tony Award-winning play starring Harvey Fierstein, Brian Kerwin, Matthew Broderick, and Anne Bancroft. In it, Arnold is looking for love and acceptance, but as a drag queen in 1970s New York City, neither come easily. After a series of heartbreaks, Arnold believes he has found the love of his life in Alan, and the two make plans to adopt a child. Tickets are on sale at imagine-entertainment.com/queer-gaze, or you can make it easy and just Google Queer Gaze, G-A-Z-E, and you'll find tickets for this Sunday's Torch Song Trilogy showing. All right, what is on the show today? The film Twinless opens in Minneapolis and Chicago, along with numerous other selected cities on September 5th next week. We've seen it, and Jim and I will give you our advanced reviews in the second half hour of the show. Up first, fresh off their absolutely delightful local premiere of Triassic Park, the musical, earlier this year, Minneapolis Musical Theater is back with their newest season, which debuts on September 5th. Executive Director of Minneapolis Musical Theater, Andrew Newman, is a local singer and performer in the Twin Cities. He has performed throughout the Twin Cities in productions at Park Square Theater, Artistry, Theater on the Round. When not in the theater, Andrew is the philanthropy associate at the Minnesota Children's Museum. And because I love journalists, I need to mention that he has a BA in journalism from the University of Minnesota, and his reporting has appeared in various publications, including City Pages and the Star Tribune. Andrew Newman, welcome back to The Gailey Show.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you guys again. Thanks for having me.
All right, first, can I just say Triassic Park? Loved it.
Oh, I'm so glad. It was such a wonderful, warm experience. And I think that was something that we were all looking for at that time, just to come together in such a welcoming atmosphere at Lush and do a musical about a bunch of queer trans dinosaurs. I mean,
it was a perfect environment. I mean, I've never seen a show in an environment so well matched before, I thought. Just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much.
Well, yeah, it was delightful. And Lush, ooh, those fries were on point, Lush. I really appreciated that as well.
I ate so much of the food from their kitchen during the run of that show. It was like, I'm excited to go back because I missed some of the things on the menu that I'm like, oh, I could really go for those chicken wraps again.
Yeah, it was delish. Definitely. All right. Well, looking forward then to next week, Andrew, tell us the show that you're kicking off your new season with.
Yeah, we are kicking off our 2025-2026 season with Anyone Can Whistle. It is a staged concert version of Stephen Sondheim and Arthur Lawrence's notorious Broadway flop from 1964. It lasted all of, I believe, 9 performances on Broadway. And that was even Angela Lansbury was in the cast and Lee Remick. It had big Broadway pedigree, but only lasted a week. There really haven't been a whole lot of full productions of that show since then. I like to describe it as the Stephen Sondheim show you've heard of but never seen. So we are doing a stripped back concert version so that we can really let the score sing, because it's got some amazing songs in it that I'm sure lots of Sondheim aficionados will recognize. And just kind of give us a chance to reflect on this wacky 60-year-old musical that has somehow stuck around with a cult following for all that time.
Is that the thought of the staged sort of concert that's its strength, is the music?
And that's what we really wanted to do with this, is really let the music shine, but then also give audiences a chance to see a show that probably wouldn't get produced in a full production otherwise.
Right.
It's one of those things that like everyone's interested in seeing, but it's really difficult to actually pull off in a full production. So that's why we're going straight for, we're going to let the script and the score shine. And with
were you
enormous cast.
is that why it's hard to do? Because there's so many people in it?
There's a lot of people. The script is so just funky and confusing. It's trying to satirize basically everything all at the same time. And yeah, like, you know, the set requirements and stuff for it are pretty wild too.
Were you part of? We did a concert version just for donors at Artistry. Weren't you part of that?
I was gonna say, Jim, you know this show.
Yeah.
That was kind of my first introduction into really reading the script and really delving into the score and just being like, God, this thing is so weird.
Yeah. It's like a sandwich that's too big. You know what I mean? You have
yes. They they absolutely like it. Sondheim and Lawrence definitely bit off more than they can chew on this one. Yeah.
Right. Well, so now where are we doing this? Where have we selected our space to be?
Yeah, so we are going to be performing at the Kahn Theater, which is attached to the Plymouth Congregational Church.
Yep.
Just on Nicollet and Franklin in Minneapolis, right by Eat Street. So
it's a beautiful space that's
used
a little bit, but not enough.
Yeah, it's so nice. It's got like this really intimate feel so that you can like you're really up close and involved with the action. Right. But there's like 200 seats in the theater, so like you can get a big crowd in there, but it doesn't feel like a big theater, which is perfect for this.
So then are you having a lot of instruments or just a simple?
Yeah, we're doing a 4-piece band that's being led by our amazing music director, Walter Tamber. And they are working so hard to make this amazing score sound incredible and manage all of those really, really super tricky Sondheim melodies that come in any of his shows. And then we've got an amazing cast of 13 people that's being led by our director, Max Watanowitz, who is a friend of ours.
Is he?
And he's friend of the Daily Show.
Yeah. Is he in the cast and
he's not
directing?
in the cast, but he's just directing. But, you know, I don't think I know anybody in the world who knows more about Sondheim than Max Watanowitz. So I'm so happy that he's on board with us working on this.
It's nice to have such a talented person be so nice. You know, he's just a really decent soul on top of everything else.
Yeah. And is such a wonderful, wonderful resource and asset for the Twin Cities theater community, you know, through the work that he does with Musical Mondays at Lush. And, of course, all of the amazing performances he's given in every theater around town.
Yep.
We are talking with Andrew Newman, Executive Director of Minneapolis Musical Theater. MMT's, am I allowed to say it like that? MMT's new season debuts next week on September 5th with its first production of the season, Anyone Can Whistle. I actually was doing some research on the show, and I found out that it is mainly done as staged concerts, that there are very few full productions of it, but one recording that caught my eye was the 1995 recording. It was at Carnegie Hall, live, obviously. It had Madeline Kahn, Bernadette Peters, Scott Bakula, and Angela Lansbury, who debuted on Broadway in the original production. She served as the narrator for this one. But it was a AIDS benefit concert for Gay Men's Health Crisis.
Yeah, I have that recording as well. That's the first recording of that show that I got.
Really?
And I think that was, you know, I think up until that point, no one had really seen Anyone Can Whistle in any kind of form since its Broadway run. So, you know, 30 years later, they did this one-off concert at Carnegie Hall. And I think that kind of really, you know, amped up the cult life for a whole new generation of people. I think since then, you know, there's been, I think Encores did it about 10 years ago, maybe or so. But yeah, any other productions that have come up have kind of been in this concert setting.
I think it speaks to Sondheim's genius that there are so many things that originally didn't work so well, like Merrily We Roll Along, that when you get the right folks a few years later to interpret or reinterpret it, and suddenly it's like, wait a minute, this should not have only played 9 performances.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing about Anyone Can Whistle is it's so early in Sondheim's career. It was his second show as a composer after A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Oh, okay.
And that was, kind of more traditional Broadway. But in Anyone Can Whistle, you can so hear all of the things that would come later. There's so much in there that sounds like Company, or that reaches forward to Follies, Into the Woods, Sunday in the Park with George. It's really like you can hear in Anyone Can Whistle. Like, that's the Sondheim that we're all going to know and love in the future. Just people were just so thrown by it in 1964 when they were presented with it that they didn't know what to do.
Well, I've heard that they liked Hello Dolly apparently better than this, which I guess tells you the mood that the country was in for that. But I have to fit in a quick break here. We're going to have more with Andrew Newman when we come back. We're going to learn more about the show because I really want to dive into the plot of this because it is wild. Before we do, though, I want to share about our new travel partner, Travel Marquette. And the reason why is that for the past decade, Marquette, Michigan, and Marquette County, the larger county, has become a very special place for me. For the past 10 years, seriously, the past 10 years, I've been going to Marquette twice a year. So I'm very happy to be in partnership with Travel Marquette. One of the first things that I noticed when going there was that I didn't have to worry about traveling while queer in Marquette County because it's a university town and it's a super blue city and a blue county. And if a place could be comfort food, then that's Marquette for me. I love rejuvenating at their local bookstore. When I hike their rivers or up their waterfalls or along Lake Superior, I just find my body releasing all that stress. And there's a local bakery that is chef's kiss. So good. If you go, reach out to me through the station or on Blue Sky. I'll tell you where it is. We literally go there every morning now for donuts and bagels when we are there. The very walkable historic downtown has very cool shopping and a bunch of restaurants and breweries. And if you like it, fun antique stores and thrift shopping. Every time I'm there, I see groups of families and friends renting out entire houses through Airbnb and their hotels, which I have stayed at, especially downtown along the lakeshore. Exquisite. I've already been there once this year for Pride, covering that in June, and I'm headed back this fall. I'm really grateful to be in partnership with Travel Marquette because the world sucks right now, and it's been so nice to just get in the car and drive to a place where I can be myself, relax, eat good food, buy what some people say is too many books, but I mean, come on, really, you can't have enough, and to be in nature. It's the place where I go to refill my cup, as they say. If that sounds like something you want to do, visit travelmarquette.com to start your journey. You are listening to The Gailey Show. We will be right back. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I am John Parker. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour. My executive producer, Jim Pounds, is here with me in the studio. Minneapolis Musical Theater debuts its new season next week, kicking it off with the staged concert, Anyone Can Whistle. Andrew Newman, executive director of Minneapolis Musical Theater, is here with us now. Andrew, can you help us break down the plot of Anyone Can Whistle? Because it is a cult classic for a reason.
That is the big question. I think it's really interesting. I recently found out that even Stephen Sondheim and Arthur Lawrence, the two people who wrote the show, didn't come to an agreement on what the show was actually about. So I think that gives you a pretty good indication of what's going to happen. So Anyone Can Whistle is just a zany satire that's set in this fictional town that's on the verge of bankruptcy. Its corrupt government is looking for ways to bring more tourists into the town so that they can flush everybody with cash. And so they come up with this phony miracle where water starts spurting out of a rock and make it like sort of this pilgrimage thing that outsiders and tourists can come in and take the waters and be freed. But it's, complete bunk. It's all made up. And then at the same time, their government officials and police force are fighting against any sort of nonconformity in the town by throwing everyone who doesn't conform into their insane asylum, which they call the cookie jar. And so our heroine of the story, Nurse Faye Apple, who is the nurse at the cookie jar, kind of takes the lead on fighting for her cookies, as she calls them, and exposing the government corruption, and all at the same time dealing with this mysterious new stranger that's come to town that says that he can diagnose anyone as sane or not, and then it just kind of takes off from there in so many different directions.
Wow. Sounds like current times.
It is extremely prescient. Just taking a look at not only a corrupt government, but one that is only interested in self-service.
Right.
Our lead character, the wicked mayoress Cora Hoover, her first song is all about how she's so upset that everybody hates her, and how she just wants people to love her, but she only wants that on her terms. She only wants that to mean power and wealth for her, and not, good things for anybody else.
Yeah.
The part of the reason why they're going bankrupt, though, is that they create a product that just never.
They create a product that's so good that no one ever needed to buy another one, and so their factory shut down because no one ever needed to buy another thing.
What an indictment of consumer capitalism!
I think that maybe was one of the 50 things that Sondheim and Lawrence were going for. They really take aim at everything under the sun, government corruption, societal conformity, looking at who and who isn't an outsider, gender roles, sexuality, all that sort of stuff. And, they take really, really big swings, especially for it being, 1964. And I think, even they would agree that not all of them landed. And I think that's probably part of the reason for why people were so befuddled by it when it first came out.
Well, I was reading about this in preparation for our conversation today, and apparently the opening night crowds liked it. There were some favorable reviews, but like today, the New York Times ruins everything, and they were the ones that gave the awful review, and that basically, and also apparently they had some really big backers, like big names who were backing the show to get it, going on Broadway, because you need a lot of those, you need the cash.
Yeah.
And it was the Times. They ruin everything. They've been doing it for decades.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they had really good pedigree. I mean, it was Angela Lansbury in her Broadway musical debut, Lee Remick, who, was a big movie star at the time. And I think, they had a lot of drama on and off the stage in their off-Broadway run, just there were cast changes and difficulties with the production staff, and Lawrence and Sondheim are kind of going back and forth on what should be in the show and what shouldn't. And I think that kind of reputation rolled them into New York. And then the Times came out with their review of this is insanity. We don't understand what this is, and that was kind of it. I think the reputation of the show was saved by their investors and their producers who threw the money together to make a cast recording, and that's what really kept it alive.
We are talking with Andrew Newman, Executive Director of Minneapolis Musical Theater. Minneapolis Musical Theater's newest season debuts next week, September 5th, with their staged concert of Anyone Can Whistle. Andrew, then how did you, Max, the cast, if this is a huge, sprawling, really kind of bonkers and fun plot, how did you all then approach saying, okay, we're going to bring this to Minneapolis. Here's the show. It is a cult classic for a reason. Here's how we're going to tell this story in the staged concert version of it. How did you all approach how you're going to tell this particular story?
Yeah, well, we are taking it as kind of this is a cult classic. Let's examine it as such. I think that's part of the reason why we went for a concert staging is, let's give audiences a really good opportunity to really delve into just what made this show so wacky and so weird, but then also highlighting what's so good about it, which, is Sondheim's incredible score. It's got some amazing songs in it. There Won't Be Trumpets. Everyone says don't. Me and My Town. And the title song Anyone Can Whistle. I mean, these are real big staples of Sondheim's work, but you never really get to see them in context. And so that's kind of what we're taking it as a chance to see these numbers in context. And then while we're doing that, also just kind of looking at those strange parallels of what they were satirizing in 1964 and exactly how well that translates to what we are all living through right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of both of those things. It's like let's brush off this nugget a little bit and like really delve into what really made it what it is, and then also reflect on how little times have changed, I guess, in
Mhm.
60 years.
How little we've learned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How do folks get tickets? I mean, how do we?
Yeah, you can get tickets by going to www.aboutmmt.org. Tickets are on sale there for all of our performances. All seats are $25. We want to make this as affordable and available to as many people as possible. So we are opening it up as much as we can.
Well, the show is Anyone Can Whistle in Concert. Open September 5th, runs through September 14th at the Con Theater in Minneapolis, 1900 Nicollet Avenue. As Andrew just said, you can get your tickets and find more information at aboutmmt.org. Andrew, social media?
Yeah, we are on Facebook and Instagram, and you can get links to our website through that and find some other fun behind the scenes photos and did you know stuff, because there's a lot of fun trivia associated with this show.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, thank you, Andrew, for joining us today. It's always a treat to see you and break a leg on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm so excited to be sharing this with people. If anyone has wanted to see a production of Anyone Can Whistle, this might be your only shot.
It might be. All right. Thanks, Andrew. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, our advanced review of the film Twinless, which opens next week. You are listening to The Gaily Show. Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPTA 20, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to The Gaily Show. I'm your host, John Parker. It is 33 minutes after the hour. Next week, and particularly on September 5th, the film Twinless opens in Minneapolis and Chicago, along with other selected cities. It is directed and written by James Sweeney. He also stars alongside Dylan O'Brien. The main cast is rounded out by Lauren Graham, Aisling Franciosi, and Chris Perfetti. We always like to let folks know at the top of the film reviews that we do if there was any animal violence in the film. There was not. There was no anti-LGBTQ violence either, and there was no HIV storyline. All right, Jim, executive producer, who's with me here, do you want to kick us off on your review?
Sure. This is a movie that I didn't have any particular expectations of. I thought it's a comedy. It's listed as a comedy, so that I you go along with that genre. I didn't know anyone that was in it except Lauren Graham and Chris Perfetti, but they clearly weren't the leads. So I just sort of sat back for whatever it was, and I was surprised how it never followed my expectations. So it was filled with surprises. It was filled with things that go against what the genre leads you to believe, and you really had to stay alert and engaged to stick with it. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then I would go back and sometimes during the film look and see that this guy, James Sweeney, not only wrote the screenplay, but directed it and starred in it. And he's 35 years old. And I was sort of struck by the enormity of that, of how good it was from my perspective, and that he's so young. Though for some reason, those two things I couldn't make sense of in my mind. But I was totally engaged with it from beginning to end. And in this day and age, when a filmmaker can have you sit there for an hour and 40 minutes and just trust them, that's a gift.
So this is James Sweeney's second film as a writer and director. In 2021, he got an Independent Spirit Award nomination for Best First Screenplay for Straight Up. And you can see why, because all of that talent is at play here in Twinless. And actually, at this year's Sundance Film Festival, Twinless won the Audience Award in the U.S. Dramatic category, and it was also a nominee for the Grand Jury Prize. Already, it's won awards at the Seattle International Film Festival and the Palm Springs International Film Festival. And I have to say, I didn't see Straight Up very impressed with James Sweeney. As a director, Twinless is sharp. There's nothing extraneous in it in terms of scene or script. The moods he created with the sound and the lighting and the editing were pitch perfect. Even those moments when grief makes the characters do something outlandish and even shocking, those moments were grounded in the realities that grief makes you do things that you didn't know you were capable of doing. And some are saying that Sweeney is a rising talent. I disagree. He's here. He's not a rising talent. He is a talent, and we need to be watching the work that he is doing and supporting it. I'm also going to push back on the notion that this is a rom-com. I've seen it described that way. Right away, when Roman and Dennis meet, we know that Roman is straight. He identifies as such, and Dennis is gay. But Roman is completely lost without his twin, even though they were estranged, and we learn why they were estranged later on. They live in different parts of the country, New York and Moscow, Idaho. But his twin was gay, and Roman immediately has this desire to bond with Dennis because Dennis also lost a twin. So he knows what that means, but also Dennis is gay, which gives this added layer of recognition to Roman. The film starts with the death of Roman's twin. We hear it off camera. It's a crash, an accident. And then we cut to the funeral, and then Roman goes to a grief support group that is where he meets Dennis. And those beginning scenes with Roman not wanting Dennis to go grocery shopping with him, it reminded me of the Netflix series Dead to Me with Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini. They too meet at a group to process the loss of spouses and partners. And you see Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini start to bond, sharing things about their lives, watching TV shows in the middle of the night, talking on the phone, even though they're in different houses, but talking about the same show, right? This grief bonding. And you see that as well here, this grief bonding between Dennis and Roman from both losing their twins. And Sweeney's script really pulls out this reality that I didn't know about with twins, not just the codependency, but how your identity and your sense of self is not independent, but always entangled with this other person who looks just like you and has been with you since the beginning. I mean, everything is always shared. And the exploration of that, of being a twin, includes a hilarious moment of watching The New Adventures of Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, which is a film where they are, this is when they were, young, and the film is about them as twins, but not knowing and then discovering each other. And so those themes I was expecting in the film was the exploration of what it meant to be a twin and then separated from them permanently through death. What I was not expecting was an exploration of a codependency between a gay man and a straight man. There is clearly an emotional bond that develops between Roman and Dennis. It gets emotionally intimate, very quickly. And I hesitate to use intimate here because, again, I don't want to, and I don't think you should consider it a rom-com.
Right.
But there is this dependency and then codependency, and it even goes so far as them double dating, right, and trying to set each other up with dates. And it was really nice to see a straight man so very clearly emotionally dependent and sometimes codependent and reliant on a gay man. And Roman never once is threatened by Dennis's sexuality.
Right.
Roman's never jocular about it and going out of his way to make sure everyone knows that he's not gay. Like Dennis's sexuality isn't ever a thing about them. Right. And that's why I want to say that Sweeney is not a rising talent. He's here because in the wrong hands, I think this script or this idea, this setup would have gone very weird or superficial or worse, stereotypical, frankly, in the wrong hands. But Sweeney clearly understands the emotional layers of grief, of the differences between emotional dependency and codependency. And so he really begins to, tease that out. And there were these moments when I was watching where I thought, wow, for how many twins is there this reality that no romantic relationship or intimacy could ever compare to the emotional intensity and rawness of being a twin.
Mhm.
You know, and
Yep.
you really see that. But then there's that dynamic as well of, you know, so here are these two characters who have lost a twin and they have this bond, but then Roman starts dating Dennis's coworker, right? And so you see this like thing happening between the three of them where they, you know, Roman and Dennis have this bond, but now you have this third, I mean, Dennis would consider her a third wheel
Mhm.
in there, but it's clearly creating this, you know, distance between the two of them. And so again, it's very interesting watching this dynamic of, I mean, how many of us gay folks have had the crush on the straight person,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You know, like all of us have had that at some point or another. I don't know for Jim if you had that, but did you?
Uh,
No, you
I
didn't.
always
I don't
kept
think.
myself more to gay people.
Yeah, you didn't. Okay. Not all of us apparently had that experience, but I think for a lot of us, we did have that, you know, that dynamic of
Yes.
you're friends with somebody, and you're friends with a straight person, and it's clearly there's a bond happening there. But then how do you navigate, you know, I mean, sometimes there is a, you know, romantic interest and sometimes there isn't a romantic interest.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to see Sweeney have these two characters navigate what that can be, what that relationship is. And there are some, you know, there's some surprises along the way. And when I say by surprises, and this is why I don't want to give it away, is that Sweeney is also exploring the ideas of what people do in the face of grief and how they can do things that they really wouldn't necessarily see themselves doing or spiraling into. And that I thought was just how he handled it was very mature. Like I never once saw folks doing things where I was like, oh, nobody would do that. You know, it really was nuanced and thoughtful. And even early on in the film, Roman asked Dennis, like, what is the worst thing that you ever done? And I think that was a very interesting question to ask within the context of this grief that they're both navigating.
Yeah. I think Aisling Franciosa, if I'm saying her name,
Franchosi,
I'm sorry, had a very difficult, you know, role to play there. So oftentimes that third wheel is a awkward thing to play anyway, but she was having to do it in an extreme way and keep her interesting and where we didn't hate her, you know what I mean? It'd be very easy to be on the wrong side of the audience's feelings and loyalty. So she managed to keep her interesting and engaging and somebody you were kind of rooting for as opposed to didn't care about.
And hard because they weren't really like super friends at work.
Right.
But then now she's, you know, in this relationship with Roman, and she's, by being on the outside, she's able to have this clarity,
right,
you know, and able to see things that these two may not necessarily begin to understand or Roman doesn't understand. And so then she has to sort of navigate this weird emotionally fraught terrain between the two of them.
She went from a stock character into a very fully realized three-dimensional character. And I didn't see it coming. You know, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, she's really all there. And I can see all of her, you know, that was kind of magical, really.
I know. When you first meet the character, she's working the reception.
Kind of smart alecky
but sort of just ditzy, I guess.
Ditzy,
you describe her as ditzy, but she's very clearly
not
emotionally capable,
right,
and knows how to handle difficult situations.
Right.
I think if we want to talk about performances now.
Yes, I do. Do I have time I feel like I'm going to say a sentence and then there's going to be a break. I thought Dylan O'Brien was stellar. And you know, my loyalty is always to the gay guy, but I thought his performance was kind of miraculous in terms of...
Oh, that's a big word.
Well, in terms of, I kept pulling for him and I kept watching him struggle and kind of trying to find his footing. And it never rang false for me. It never rang, you know, forced I feel like I can see actor tricks a lot of and I just felt like it was the most honest, available, you know, sincere, deeply felt performance that I don't know when I've seen something quite sort of deceptively simple
Mhm.
as that character. And it didn't matter what he was doing. It was whether he was doing physical work, from a workout, or whether he was in the grocery store, whether it seemed like everywhere he was that character who, was not always the sharpest nail in the belt. And yet he had this great heart. And I just thought I really gravitated towards him. And that's not who I would usually gravitate towards
Mhm.
in a film like this. So I just thought it was a great, great, great performance.
Yeah, we do get to see Dylan play both himself and his twin. We don't get to see that from James, but James is already doing so much. I mean, writing, directing, and
Who's got
and
time?
starring as Dennis.
Right.
And he is a Dennis, or I'm sorry, James is part of the community, and
Yep.
Dylan isn't. And we all know my long-standing thing about not wanting to have
Right.
straight people playing queer roles. But in this case, like, come on.
Yeah.
Dylan is, not part of the community and is playing a straight character, but then also you get to see his range
Yep.
in playing the twin. And I
Yep.
think that was something that was also very interesting to me for James in his script, to write twins, but they were very different. You've got Dylan, who would be more of your stereotypical like working class, even
Yep.
though Dylan didn't play it working class in the class. I mean, that sort of, dumb, you could write that and like that character is dumb or whatnot. Yeah. And this is a character who is, hasn't gone to college per se.
Yeah.
He is, on the simpler end. He has a regular like job. He does get, I love that there was the faults in him is that he gets very violent. You know what I mean?
Anger
we got
issues.
More after this break about Twinless. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We're coming up on the top of the hour. My executive producer, Jim Pounds, is here with me. We are doing an advanced review of the film Twinless, which is coming out next week. You can check your local theaters, or you can go to fandango.com, put in your location, and you can find all the theaters that are playing it near you. For sure, it is playing in Minneapolis and Chicago and other select cities. Jim, before the break, we started talking about Dylan O'Brien's performance in there. And you were saying that his performance was miraculous. I was saying how it was very interesting to me. He gets to play both of the twins, and I appreciated in James Sweeney's scripts how different they were as characters, even though there was very clearly still this bond of knowing each other and understanding the emotional weight of their relationship, even though they were now living in two different cities. One was gay, one was straight. They had different educational levels. I think, it's a credit to Dylan's performance that he could have played this very stereotypically, and he didn't. They were very well grounded. I like that James included in the script faults. There is this violence in Roman, rather, where he, there's a part where they are called a slur in the film, and Roman defends Dennis in that. I will say I didn't consider that anti-LGBTQ violence per se, because it's it's a remark that these guys like throw at them. And this is where we're talking about the character's flaws. Roman sort of has this oversized reaction to someone insulting Dennis. And so we see that, and how it was it was grounded. It was very well thought out. They didn't, it was just the right tone, if you will. I don't want to be like tone policing, but it was just, they hit the right note with it. And I thought that was very impressive. I would have liked to have seen more of Lauren Graham. I thought that she was a little bit wasted in the role. She kind of had these two main scenes that she was in, and she sort of played the stock mom character. One that's trying to just help Roman process what's going on in the beginning of the film, and then at the end of the film, there's the realization that she's having problems herself, and and navigating this. Both of those scenes were really short, so I'm like, if I got Lauren Graham, I'm gonna make some use of that.
Yeah.
But she does an excellent job
Yeah.
in it. That's not to say, you know, that's just me, I guess, as a film viewer wanting to see more of Lauren Graham.
That second scene did have heft, and I thought she and her talent made that really sing.
Yes, it did.
So I can see why you needed Lauren Graham for that scene. I don't know that you needed her for the first scene. I think anybody could have done that. But anyway, it was good to see her. And Chris Perfetti didn't have a lot to do. So I always wonder how people get into a movie. Are they like, well, we got to have somebody with a name? Is that what goes on? Or does he know Sweeney? You know, I just wonder how that comes about. Because there was not much of a part for Chris, but it was nice to see him doing something different, you know, and he's in the community. So I root for people in our community. So it was nice to see. I just don't know that it stretched him very much. I think he was just fine in the role.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see him doing like drama work. You know, we're so used to seeing him on Abbott Elementary and seeing his comedic chops.
Right.
That it was interesting to see him here in this role doing something that didn't have to rely on all of those, you know, things. And he does play a critical role. Even though it is a supporting role, there is, you know, he is moving the plot forward.
Yeah, he sure is.
In an interesting way.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to sort of see him outside of, you know, Abbott Elementary. I'm happy that he's getting that work.
Yeah. To see another dimension, you can get too established in one successful thing, and then all of a sudden you can't. They just offer you more of that. So it was nice. Maybe that's why he did it. He's like, I'll do an independent film of any kind because it's not this sort of overdone, you know, the sitcom on a network, which is now rare anyway, where you do 22 episodes of something. It must be nice to just do something different in your hiatus. So
exactly. And James Sweeney was fantastic as well in the role of Dennis. I think that he obviously, as the writer, he really understood this character and really brought out a lot of nuances in there. And just really, there was a lot of layers to this character. It was a difficult character to play, and I'm sure to write and then portray it. There are a lot of choices in there that you're like, whoa. But again, you know, grief makes you do these weird, shocking things that you didn't know that you were going to end. And I think that was what I liked about it too, is that, you know, his character is making these choices and is sort of like stumbling and fumbling his way into them and not really like super consciously being like, this is what I'm going to do. It's sort of, you know, it's like he's almost being pulled along by these choices that he's making in them.
Yeah, this is one that I would highly recommend. I feel like we're going to hear about it at the end of the year, maybe only from the Independent Spirit Awards, but I feel like it's distinctive, you know.
It should be in that conversation.
Original. It's one of a kind, I think, and much more confident than I would expect from a 35-year-old filmmaker. I just
on a sophomore outing.
Yeah.
What are you going to give it in terms of how many stars? How many rainbow stars?
What's my maximum rainbow stars? I will give it 5 rainbow stars.
Oh, really?
I think so, because because my expectations started way over here, and by the end I was way over here, and so they moved me that far. I think they deserve a 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars.
Okay,
I really liked it. There was just one scene at the end where I needed more. You know, there's some truths that come out at the end from Dennis, James Sweeney's character, and for a script that was so on point the entire time. It wasn't that it wasn't grounded or real, and I believed it, but I was like, I need more here to kind of fully have the moment, to let it breathe, to really sort of have everything come around full circle, and to say, yes, okay, we can put a pin in that.
Yeah. And
I needed more on Dennis's understanding of the choices that he was making and the explanations for why he was doing these things.
Yeah.
And I felt it was a little too brief. It was too brief for me. It was too brief. I needed more.
I think this is playing at Alamo Drafthouse, isn't that right?
I don't want to say exactly where it is. I would recommend going to Fandango or to Rotten Tomatoes, and you can look up your local listings from there, or just look at your local Locust, your closest film theater, movie theater.
But go see it, because
be 4 to 5 stars from me, 5 out of 5 stars from Jim. You need to be going and checking out this movie. All right, that is all for us today. Thank you for listening and or watching. Keep the gay going all weekend long on Saturday afternoon with the Twin Cities Pride Amplified at 3 p.m., Illegal Trans Women at 4, and Downright Upright Show at 5 here on AM 950. On Sunday, tune in at 11 for Out Chicago at Sunday Brunch with your gay best friends, Ellen Miller and Scott Duff. And until next week, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.